Thanks for tuning into No Wine in No Time. I'm your host, Dave, and today we're actually taking some feedback from one of our subscribers. And SJ wrote me, could you please help someone who's trying to create a wine collection? So SJ, absolutely. So when we look at creating a wine collection, one thing we want to do is make sure we check all the different boxes. So think about any social situation, any culinary situation we might be in. We want to have the perfect wine for that. So what we want to do is break it apart by category and think about the wines that should be in there. Now I'm doing this on a basic level. Of course, we could take it a step further and get into more ethnic wines, but I'm going to talk more about varietals right now. So let's take the red wine category first. So in red wine category, we want to start lighter and go heavier as we go. And when we think about red wines, usually that weight has a lot to do with the tannic structure. We're going to start first with Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir is a thinner skinned, lightly tannic wine, and that particular wine will appeal to people who like, say, lighter wines or want to pair with lighter type of foods. As we move up the tannin scale, let's next go to, say, Merlot or Zinfandel. That's red Zinfandel, not white Zinfandel. And when we look at Merlot or red Zinfandel, these are wines that are medium tannic, medium acid, medium body, and they'll appeal to more of a mass of people. So let's go all the way to the heavy scale and think about grapes like Cabernet Sauvignon. When we think about Cabernet Sauvignon, we think about big body, heavy, lots of tannins, very rich type of wine. Well, these will appeal to people who want maybe to pair it with a heavier food like beef, or to someone who just wants a rich, full-bodied wine. So once again in the red category, start light, get some medium body, and also some heavy body. So whoever's at your place on that particular day or whatever food you're serving, you'll have the right wine for that application. When we move on to white wines, let's think about weight and also acidity. So let's start out with a lighter, more fruity type of wine grape, and that's one called Pinot Grigio. So Pinot Grigio appeals to a wide audience because it's not bone dry. It has a lot of apple and pear type fruit persona, and it's medium on the acidity scale. So it's one that you can just kick back and enjoy a white wine really with no food agenda. Let's step that up a notch. Let's move to a grape called Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc steps up the acidity quite a bit and gives you a little bit more crisp fruits, say things like lemons and grapefruits. So we're more on the acidity side and more aggressive on the fruit side of things. Now let's pick up the weight or the body. And when we think about white wines, we're getting some of that weight or that body from something called glycerin. So a heavier, more glycerin-laden grape, things like Chardonnay. Chardonnay, when we get down to choosing one for our collection, we'll actually take two different paths. We have buttery, toasty Chardonnays, one that spent significant time in oak. So if you like buttery, toasty, look for the oaked Chardonnays, or crisp, refreshing Chardonnays, the ones that did not spend time in oak. Let's look at our next category, and that's rosé wines. Rosé wines actually get their start as red grapes, but we leave the skins in contact with the juice for a short period of time. So rosés will take two different paths. The first path is dry rosés. When we look at dry rosés, there's a lot of options out there for you. Personally, I think Provence, France does dry rosés better than anybody. They've been making dry rosés for over 2,000 years, all the way back to Roman times, really classic styling. On the sweet rosé side, we really have to mention something that isn't a super elegant wine, but it has mass appeal, and that's white Zinfandel. People everywhere love it. Manufacturers make millions and millions of bottles of that particular white Zinfandel, and the reason why people like it is because it's not heavy and it has a little bit of sweetness. So dry rosé Provence, sweet rosé, think something like white Zinfandel. And our final category we want to look at is sparkling wines. We always need to have a sparkling wine just in case we want to have an aperitif, say before a meal, or obviously we think of classic celebrations. And the top of the mountain on sparkling wines is Champagne. Well, Champagne only comes from Champagne, France, and it really does represent the highest expression of a sparkling wine, the highest quality. Unfortunately, they started about $30 and worked their way up into the hundreds. So maybe you want to get a Champagne, but let's talk about more affordable options for you. Say something that comes from Italy called Prosecco. Prosecco is perfect because it is beautifully sparkly, has a nice lemon type of persona to it, but it's much more affordable. We have great Proseccos in the $10 to $15 range. And I also think sparkling, we think Champagne, we think Prosecco. Think about Asti Spumante. This is a sweet sparkling wine that really pairs well with fresh fruits, or if someone just wants something sweet. So those are your major categories. We have red, we have white, we have rosé, we have sparkling, and we categorize them by weight, by acidity, and by sweetness. So there's a lot of wines out there, but I think really if you start with somewhere in the 20 bottle range and you hit all those different categories, you really will have the perfect wine for just about every application. So thank you so much, SJ, for sending in that question. I do appreciate it, and I thank everybody for watching, and please tune in next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.